time is not on my side at this point. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and so I don't know if I have time to really rig something here or even supplies to do so. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? I hope everybody out there is having a fantastic day. It is Wednesday, October 19th here in South Georgia, and we have a very unusual cool spell coming through right now. Possibly going to get our first freeze tonight. Last time I checked, it's supposed to get down to about 36, but there is a freeze warning in place. That's pretty odd because we usually don't get our first freeze down here until the end of November. Now, we've got some cool season stuff in the ground that we're not really worried about at all, but we've also got a good bit of warm season stuff still in the ground that's not quite ready to harvest. So we've got to do a little bit of planning there. I don't know that we can save everything, but we're going to try to save as much as we can. So I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not near as nervous as some of these big farmers around here are. Right down the road from us, there's a big field of peppers that they're just starting to pick. There's another huge field of squash that's still producing. And I was talking to one of my buddies today who lives in the big city of Barwick, Georgia. He's a farmer over there, and he's got a big squash field. He said this morning he was going to get 50 bales of hay and going to line them around the field, light them on fire tonight, and supposedly the smoke will keep the frost from settling on the plants. I guess you do what you got to do to save a big field of squash. So let's take a little walk around to each garden plot, and I'll tell you my plans of what I'm going to try to protect and what I'm just going to cross my fingers on. So let's start off here in our raised bed garden plot where the stuff we transplanted is looking really awesome, with the stuff we direct seeded not so much. So our flash collards are looking really good. These things took off growing not just a few days after we transplanted them, and our goal around here with collards is to at least have them ready before Thanksgiving. The way these are growing, I think we'll have a pot of collards before then. Same thing with our kale here. Everything's looking really nice, and I imagine in a few weeks we'll be able to start harvesting some baby leaves on this stuff. And then over here in this taller bed, the rutabagas actually seem to be growing faster than anything else in this raised bed garden plot, just putting on lots and lots of new growth there, kind of filling those gaps between the plants. Red cabbage is looking pretty good as well, just not growing quite as fast as these rutabagas are. Then we got this bed, which has all kind of different stuff in it: dill, cilantro, basil, and some zinnias. We'll come back to this bed in a minute. On to the stuff we direct seeded. I'm seeing some pretty spotty germination with 3 of the 4 carrot varieties I planted. So we can see some little sprouts right there, but not a full row by any means. Now these dragon carrots here came up the best of all 4 varieties. Got a decent little stand on those, and a little less of a decent stand on the Yellowstone carrots. And our parsnips over there in that bed, haven't seen anything with them so far. So it's been about a week and a half now since we planted these carrots and parsnips, and we should be seeing pretty much a full double row by now. Everything should be sprouted out. We've been keeping the soil moist there, doing everything we've always done in our in-ground garden plots to get good carrot germination. So it had me thinking, you know, what's going on here? Did my seeds go bad? Did my seeds not store well from one year to the next? Or was it something else? Now, not long after we planted these, I think it was in the next few days, we got a really hard rain. And I think that might be the culprit. And the reason I think that is based on what I'm seeing here in this one round raised bed. So we planted some watermelon radishes in here, planted a row per line of that brown drip tubing there. You can see some of them came up, but we've got seeds popping up all over the place in here in different spots other than where I planted them. So we got a bunch of seeds kind of bunched up, sprouting around the edge of this bed here, as opposed to being right along that drip tubing. Now that night it was raining so hard I wasn't able to come out here and take a look at these beds and see if there was standing water in them. But the next morning there was no standing water there. But by looking at where those seeds are located now as opposed to where I planted them, I think that heavy rain may have washed some of our seeds around. I think it also may have compacted our seeds down deeper than we wanted them planted. And that's what I think caused the spotty carrot germination behind me here. Now the row of dragon carrots looks good enough to stay, but after this cold spell is done, if I don't see anything else sprouting, I may have to replant my carrots. I may have to replant some of these watermelon radishes as well. Now, as far as the impending frost goes, I'm really only worried about one bed in this plot here. Not worried about the collards, not worried about the kale. I may get a little burn on the tips of the leaves, but they should be fine. Rutabaga's cabbage should be fine. This celery here might get a little burn on it, but it should be fine. The one bed we really got to worry about is this one here that has the basil, the zinnias, and the cilantro in it. The dill should be fine. So last year I invested in some frost protection supplies, and if you don't have any, I would highly recommend having some. They're just nice to have when you get a rogue frost coming through or when winter really sets in. So I've got these hoops here, got these off Amazon. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put a link below. I like these because you can bend them and shape them however you want to. So if you've got kind of a narrow row that maybe is a little taller, you can bend them like that. If you got a wider row that's not quite as tall, you can stretch them out like that. I think these came in 6-packs. They also make some that are a little bit bigger than this, and I may have to get some of those at some point for some of these raised beds in here, for some other stuff in the garden. But I think we can make these work. So we'll use these, and we'll use some Agribon that I'll show you in a minute and kind of drape that over the hoops. So I'm not sure if these hoops here are quite big enough for this bed, but I think we can rig something to make it work. Let's see here. That's going to be pretty close, and if that fabric is touching these zinnias here, they might still get burnt by the frost. So we may have to rig something where we kind of alternate the hoops here. So maybe one there, and then put one right there, kind of like that, and we should still be able to cover everything. All right, so that hoop design there is not exactly ideal. We definitely need to get some of the taller ones for this type of bed, but I think this right here will work, considering this is all we have at the moment. All right, now we've got our Agribon fabric here that will drape over these hoops. It's a little windy out here today, so this could get tricky. This is a piece of a big roll, so we're just going to cut it to length, and that way we'll have it for this bed whenever we need it. All right, maybe not the neatest presentation you've ever seen, but I think it will work. That roll of Agribon fabric I have isn't wide enough to come all the way to the ground with it. I think that would have been the easiest thing to do, but I don't have enough fabric there to do that. I'd need a wider roll for that. And with the wind blowing, it made it a little tough, but I think we got them as protected as we can get them with the supplies we have. There are a few leaves touching the edges there. We'll just have to see what happens. Moving on to the other plots, obviously we're not worried about this plot because we don't have anything planted there. I do need to incorporate those alfalfa pellets that have swollen up after giving that a nice watering. Now over here, we've got a couple things that are probably going to get bit by the frost. Don't know how much, but there's just too much here for us to really try to cover or to worry about. So for these polar bear pumpkins here, the middle has been decimated by some type of bug. I told you about that several videos ago. But on the outskirts here, we actually have some nice pumpkins. That one there is pretty dang big, and I was hoping it made it to full maturity. It's not quite there yet. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see if the pumpkins get burned back completely. If they do, we may end up just harvesting these pumpkins as they are. Then we've got our 3 rows of fall taters here, which are looking really, really good. Really happy with these so far. Now, a light frost is definitely going to burn these a little bit, but it might not kill them all the way. We won't know until the morning, but we should be able to tell pretty easily in the morning what happens. If it does just kill the plants all the way, we'll just scratch around and scavenge what taters we can find down there. They may not be that big, but I do think there's probably some taters down there. And then behind that plot, we've got this cool season cover crop that we planted 2 or 3 videos ago. It started to come up pretty nicely. It looks a little patchy out there just because of that heavy rain kind of washed those rye seeds in little bunches there. But there's a bunch of tiny seeds sprouting down there that you can't really see. It should fill in nicely in the next couple weeks. But anyway, all this stuff right here should be just fine. Not worried about this plot at all. And really nothing to worry about here in this plot either. Our chickens are finishing up their second round of grazing on this plot. Came in here with a wheel hoe the other day trying to terminate the last little bit of that millet. A frost here may actually help. Just go ahead and kill that millet off, and then we'd be ready to plant our onions. Now over here in the last dream garden plot, we've got all these cool seeds and veggies that we fertilized on that last video, and I'm really not worried about any of this stuff here. I'll make sure there's plenty of water in the soil to kind of insulate those plants, but the broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage should be just fine. These chocolate habanero peppers, on the other hand, will not be fine. Now these are looking a little weak. They're looking better than they did a week or so ago. Gonna have to do some work on these once this cool spell passes, but we definitely need to cover these. So I'm gonna go grab some more hoops and fabric out of the greenhouse, and we'll get this one covered much like we did a little raised bed earlier. All right. It ain't perfect, but it'll work. If I had more time, I'd straighten it up a little bit, get it a little better looking, but that's gonna have to be good for now. We didn't have to cut that piece because we had this one left over from last year. We used it in another plot in the dream garden here, so that worked out well. Didn't have to cut it, and that should keep those peppers safe. Over here behind the dream garden in this big plot, there's only one thing we really need to worry about. I'm not worried about those pumpkins there. I'm going to pull those out of there in the next week or so anyways, get this cleaned up and plant a cover crop in here once it warms back up a little bit. But we got some turmeric over here in the shade that I'm really worried about. So our 40-foot row of turmeric here is just looking absolutely outstanding, and I think we're going to have a pretty bountiful harvest here. Those wood chips we put down have done a pretty good job at suppressing the weeds in here. Got a few little ones popping up there, but it did the job for the most part. Now I'd really like this turmeric to survive another 30 days. I think we could get a much better harvest if it had another month to grow, but I'm kind of looking at it much like I'm looking at my fall taters over there. If it kills the plants, we'll dig up what turmeric we have underneath there. I got to check to see if I have enough agribon left to cover this 40-foot row. I may or I may not. I definitely don't have any hoops tall enough for this turmeric, so I'd have to rig something with some PVC pipe and rebar. Time is not on my side at this point. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and so I don't know if I have time to really rig something here or even supplies to do so. So this might be one where we just kind of cross our fingers on and hope for the best. And then behind that turmeric there, we've got these 3 beautiful and very productive rows of Ruiz okra. I've been getting about a 5-gallon bucket full off these 3 rows 2 to 3 times a week. Now last year I did have a few rows of okra that survived the first light frost we had, but I'm not just going to count on these to do so. We have gotten plenty of okra out of here to where if we were to lose it, wouldn't be no big deal, but my main purpose in growing this was to grow out a seed crop of this Ruiz okra. So I was about to stop harvesting it and let just pods fill up these plants, let those kind of mature on the plants, and then harvest it as seed. These plants get bit back now, we won't have any seed. So I got to do something to protect these, and for these I'm going to use the old run the sprinkler all night trick. That's always worked pretty well for me. It's not the most conservative use of water, so to speak, but it works, especially when you've got something as big as this plot that you can't really cover. So we'll put a sprinkler on this probably 11 o'clock at night or so, and then we'll turn it off first thing in the morning. And then lastly, this little plot right here is going to be one that hurts my feelings the most if the frost kills it. So we're just absolutely loaded up with butterbean pods underneath this arch panel trellis. I haven't found one that's filled out completely yet, so we can't harvest yet, but we've got the mother load in here if it can just make it past tonight. And we've also got the mother load on these black climbing field peas here that Richard in Tennessee sent us. Waiting on these pods to fill out just a hair bit more. Some of those could be probably harvested right now. I may come through here in a minute and salvage what I can, but I'd sure hate to see this go already. Now we obviously can't cover this because it's too wide and too tall. We could use the sprinkler trick, but I'm worried with a sprinkler I won't get good coverage over that entire arch. So gonna have to do a little improvisation on this one. So I've got a couple ideas here, and what I actually decide on will probably be determined about 7 o'clock tonight when it gets dark. So my first idea would be to take one of my tripod sprinklers, fold the legs together, and then zip tie it to this top rail here in my compost bin. Get it up there a little bit and maybe see if that will give me enough water coverage to cover that entire plot. My other idea was to come along one side of the plot here. I've got several camping tables underneath the barn. Set up a camping table, then put the tripod sprinkler on top of that, and maybe that would cover the entire plot. Don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'll let you know on the next few videos what I decided to do, and hopefully we're able to save them. Not going to do it on this video right now because me setting up all that might be a little frustrating for me, and it might not be appropriate for network television. So those are my plans. Hopefully at least a few of them work. And to throw an even bigger kink into all this, we're supposed to leave first thing in the morning to go camping in the mountains. Now, I can't really leave first thing in the morning because I'm going to have to come out here and check on everything and kind of wait till it warms up just a little bit. It's coldest around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's not like I can get up at 6 o'clock, turn the sprinklers off, and be worry free. So I'm going to have to wait around a little bit in the morning now, make sure everything's okay, uncover some of this stuff, turn all the sprinklers off, and hope we have survived that first frost. And now I got to get to work and start moving some water hoses around. I'm not used to running 2 overhead sprinklers on the back half of the property here, so I got to steal a water hose from the front half of the property, move it back here, try to get all my sprinklers set up with the right trajectory and everything so I can just come out here late tonight, turn the sprinklers on, and then turn them off in the morning. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed seeing kind of the process of deciding what we're going to try and save and what we're just going to cross our fingers on. And by the time this video airs, this cool spell will have passed. But let me know in the comments below of your veggies in your veggie garden. What survived, what didn't survive, what did you cover and protect, what did you just let the frost have? If you're watching on YouTube, I'll be sure to put links below to those hoops and the frost protection fabric that we use here. You can also find links to all of our affiliate partners and some coupon codes that'll give you some discounts if you decide to order from those companies. Don't forget to go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com, where we've got our garden blog, recipes, hats, shirts, all kind of good stuff over there. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, like, and share, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.